Hi, everyone. My name's Jennifer. I'm a psychic medium, and these are a series of my stories, my life as a psychic, and how it has unfolded over the last 57 years. Uh, so, this is part three. And if you're following the series, I'm now going to talk about when I'm 9 years old. These videos are I'm trying to keep them all around 30 minutes. Um, okay, so somewhere around the age of 9, um, I'm trying to figure out. So my daddy passed away in March of 1978. So July of 78, I turned 10. So yes, I think sometime in late 77, my dad had an incident. I'm pretty sure he had a stroke. I was playing in the office with him. We were living at an apartment complex, so my parents moved around a lot at this time. My daddy had been injured a couple of years earlier, couldn't work on his own um, because he hurt his wrist and he was a physical labor kind of guy. And so he came up with this grand idea that if my parents did things together as a team, that would be their best route of being able to make money. So in the last video, number 2, I talked about how we lived on a chicken ranch and they worked as a team. We worked as a family. My sister and I helped out a lot as well. Okay, so uh, at this point, um, my parents are they're a team in the sense of we moved to this apartment complex, and my dad is like the all around maintenance guy. Okay, so he does all the upkeep on the apartment complex, and my mom is the office lady. She's the secretary, the one who collects the rent, the one who takes phone calls and deals with all of the residents. And since we were the managers of the apartment complex, we lived in an apartment that was attached to the office. So there was an attached door that if you opened it, you could walk into the office right out of our living room, as far as my memory serves me. Um, so my dad was in the office, he was on the phone, and I uh, remember he like fell out of the chair or something. He fell back in the chair or something, and I thought he was goofing around. He was very much so a jokester. He was always fooling around, messing around, being funny. And when I realized that there was something wrong, I'm pretty sure I ran and got my mother. Um, then I don't have any memory other than he was in the hospital, but it was far away and I wasn't allowed to go see him. Now, I just want to reiterate that even though this man was not of a sound mind fully, he made some really crazy choices for us as a family, and his discipline was very extreme. I put him on a pedestal as a little girl. He was the best of everything in my mind. I also want to add in here, astrologically speaking, he was a Scorpio and I'm a Cancer. And we are both water signs. And what I've learned throughout my life is that Scorpios are my favorite people in the whole world. Like, that's it. Scorpios are my favorite. And I love all Scorpio. It's very intense. We have a lot of Scorpio in my mother's side of the family. So, not Scorpios per se, but in our own personal natal charts, we all carry some really heavy scorpionic energy, um, and those stories will come later. So I idolized this man. And when I was told that as a little girl I wasn't allowed to go to the hospital to see him, this was devastating for me. Um, but I wasn't really able to articulate that or express myself fully because, for one, my mother was under extreme stress. And even though I was only 9 years old, I was very aware that any outside stress, and yes, I considered myself to be outside, any more stress, any undue stress. What other words could I put on it? Basically, I felt like anything that had to do with me and my feelings was not necessary, or it was just too much for the room. Um, so I internalized everything, and I was a good little girl. I didn't really act out that much. I mean, back when I was 3, and I forgot to express this in video 1 and or 2, I did pitch fits. I would hit the floor and I would scream and carry on like a ridiculous child to get my way. But I learned one day because I decided to do that outside. We stepped out of the car. We were entering a grocery store, and my mother had told me, when we went in, that I wasn't going to get anything. And I do remember I had a little summer dress on and I just plopped my butt down on the pavement, and it was a good 100-degree day, and I burned the heck out of my behind. But I just remember jumping up off that pavement, and I believe that my mother's response was, "That's what you get, that's what you get for a pitch and fit." And we went in the store. I was crying. By the time we got inside, I was just a whimpering mess. Um, so I don't remember pitching those types of fits too much after that. Uh, I know that I was too much for my mother on many levels. I was too emotional. I asked too many questions. I was too opinionated as a little girl. Um, um, but again, I want to reiterate that my internal world was very um, live, very unique, very bright. It was a lot. There was a lot going on internally because I didn't tell anyone what I was experiencing as a psychic. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I never said anything. Somewhere along the line, I believe that when we were in church, I realized that whatever was going on inside of me was not the right thing to say out loud, because it would be perceived as bad somehow. So I internalized it, and somewhere along the line in my young years, I realized that it was evil in the church. Uh, it was, or it would be embarrassing, or and then the older I got, like into my teens, I thought maybe people would perceive me as mentally ill, uh, or schizophrenic, but I didn't even know what schizophrenia was back then. I just knew that people would perceive me as there was something not right with me. And this was a culmination of reactions and or responses, primarily reactions, that I would get from the people around me, including my family, when I would say certain things. Like, I see someone, or I would know something that I shouldn't know, or something like that. I would always get course corrected. So I internalized much. Okay, so I'm 9 years old. My dad strokes out. He's taken away to a hospital. It's 1977. The medical world didn't really know what to do with him. So he had a surgery years prior. They told him that he had, it was a stomach surgery, but while they were doing that, they told him that he had lung cancer. He decided to not tell my mother at the moment, and then he decided to not tell my mother at all. Um, and he kept smoking 3 and 4 packs of cigarettes a day. It was ridiculous. Like, that man had a cigarette in his hand 24/7. His fingers were stained from the nicotine. He smoked unfiltered cigarettes. He smoked pipes. He smoked cigars. He chewed tobacco. He Anyway, so he was shipped out to the Bay Area here in California, which was a couple of hours away from where we were living. We were in the Central Valley, and um, I wasn't going to school like I should. I didn't want to go to school. School had always been an issue for me. I didn't do well in school. We moved a lot. I didn't learn like others. The curriculum was um, always changing because each school that I went to, their focus was on something else. Like, one school would be really hyper focused on math, another school would be hyper focused on reading, another would be focused on something else. And so I always felt like I was behind, or I didn't know what I was learning because I just got to the school again. And so uh the truant officers came to our home, told my mother that if my butt wasn't in school, then she was going to pay the consequences. And she just couldn't, what was she supposed to do with everything else? And she was spending a lot of time in the Bay Area at my father's hospital bedside. My sister was 14, around 14 years old at this time. So she was left to get herself to school. She, I believe, was eighth grade in high school, ninth grade. And, she had friends, she had male friends, she had friends with cars. She got to school and she got home. And I just didn't want to go to school. I would fight my mother tooth and nail. So my mom came up with an idea that maybe I could stay with friends who went to school with me, therefore their parents could get me to school. And so I stayed with one family, and the father was an alcoholic and a cocaine addict. And he had an extremely good job with, back then it was PG&E. Nope, it was Pac Bell. It was Pacific Bell. Holy cow. And he made a ridiculous amount of money. There were three children. There was a little girl who was my age, and then there was a little brother, and then there was a little baby sister. And the mother was a stay-at-home mom. And the abuse in that home looked like the mother was always in high heels, tight jeans, a tight shirt with her chest, very prominent. Her hair was always done. Her makeup was always done. And she always made sure she had dinner on the table when the dad came in the house. Yes, looking back, there were behavioral problems with the kids. The little boy would kick and carry on and punch his mother. I was confused about this behavior. I didn't have that in my home. I didn't know why he was so out of control, and it would appear as though the mother kind of let him slip. I mean, she would just say, "Don't do that," but not really give him any consequences. And it didn't take too long. A few months I was staying there, and the father came home. He was out of his mind on drugs and alcohol. I didn't know this at the time. I found out later. And I witnessed him firsthand dragging the mother around the house by her hair, kicking her in the stomach, punching her. And I would tell the little girl who I was the same age with, who I went to school with, like, we need to call the cops. We need to tell somebody. And she was just terrified. And so I tried to sneak out to the phone one night, and I snuck out of the hallway. I snuck behind the couch. I tried to crawl to the kitchen, but the phone, in the 70s, the phones were on the walls in the kitchen, and there was like a 15-foot cord, to the receiver. And I ran to the phone and I tried to grab it off the wall, but that would mean I'd have to do the rotary dial to dial 0. And he grabbed the phone out of my hand and punched it off the wall and screamed something at me, and he just looked like a crazy banshee. And so I ran back in the bedroom, and I didn't try and do that again. But I had a series of conversations with the mother. I was an adult in a little girl's body in many ways. And I would sit at the kitchen table with her in the afternoons before her husband would get home. I don't know what all the kids were doing. I would assume that my little friend was in her room. She had everything as far as toys go. We played Barbies a lot, and she had all of the stuff for the Barbies. And I would sit at the table and talk with the mom, and I would have grown-up conversations with her. And one time I told her, "You need to leave him. He's going to kill you. He's going to hurt you." And I remember her saying, "You're so grown up for your age, who the heck, what the heck?" But she utilized my time and my energy, and she spoke to me like I was a young adult. And so she finally got the chutzpah, and I think that her husband was on to her somehow. Maybe he could detect the change in her attitude or something. And so we had a little plan. So the dad came home, and he was a tyrant. And the mother said, "All right, kids, everybody run, get in the car." And she had a Chevy Camaro, and he had an old Chevy pickup truck. Um, I say old, they were brand new back then. Um, but we jumped into the Camaro, and when she tried to start it, it wouldn't start. Uh, and he came walking out the garage door with spark plug wires in his hand, laughing because for some reason he knew that we were going to try and take off. So I don't. He went back in the house maybe or something. We get out of the car, we run, we get in his pickup truck, and I think he just wasn't ready for that one. And so the way he parked was kind of like in front of the house on this odd slab of concrete. It was like almost in the lawn, but I don't know. Maybe it was for like a boat. But he would put his pickup truck there so that he wouldn't have to park. I don't know. They had a garage and everything. But anyway, he would park up on this cement slab. And right off the back of his pickup was an alleyway. And so we all jumped into the truck. And I don't know how we did it. I think he just went back into the house laughing, expecting for us to all come back in like, oh. And instead, we all got out and we ran into the pickup truck. And she turned it on, and he heard it, and he come running out the front door, and he's running towards the front of the truck, and he's trying to lift the hoods, and he's trying to grab at anything that he can pull out, probably spark plug wires again. And she's able to back out, and we hightail it down the alleyway. And we ended up at the husband's brother's house. And they put us up in a bed for the night. Um, I remember being really scared, confused, but I didn't have anyone to tell. So I think that shortly after that, I went to my mother and said, I don't want to stay there anymore. I didn't tell her why. I was always protecting everything and everyone. And I didn't think that my mother could handle it emotionally. So I sucked it all up. I internalized it, and I just told her I didn't want to stay there anymore. And so the next house that I was taken to, or that I stayed at, I had another friend. She was a twin. They were twin girls. We were in the same age, or in the same grade, and closer to the school, I think. And like walking distance, yes, walking distance. Because at the last house, the mother would take us to school and pick us up. So now we're in walking distance of the school. This family also pretty well off. They lived in a 2-story home. Their father had a really good job. But the year prior to my going to stay with them, their father also had some kind of an aneurysm or a brain tumor or something. And when he came out of the hospital from that, he was no longer himself. And so the mother got to the point to where she couldn't handle it, and I think she put him in a care facility. And so she brought in this younger guy, and so now fast forward, I come to stay at this house. And so it's the 2 girls that are my age, the twins, and then they have an older brother, and then they have an older sister. The brother is in middle school, and the like 7th or 8th grade, and the older sister is in high school. And we are all me and the twins, pardon me, are in the 4th grade. In the 4th grade. And so I stay there. And I learned very quickly that this house is just as crazy as the other house. They introduced me to marijuana. I did not know what was happening when they offered it to me. I didn't, take a drag off of anything. Basically, the older brother took a toilet paper roll. They told me to close my eyes. They put the toilet paper roll up to my mouth, and the girls told me when they say go, I am to breathe in through this toilet paper roll. And I was very naive and very trusting of everything. And I did not know that the brother put his mouth on the other end after he had taken a drag off of uh, a joint or something, and he blew the smoke into my lungs. I breathed it in, I coughed my head off, and I was higher than a kite. Never experienced that before. I was only 9. And they got a real kick out of it. They were all smoking weed all the time. And so that became something that we did. We would smoke weed. And, but it was hard for me because if I even took a couple of hits off of whatever, I got very paranoid. I clammed up. I got really nervous. It was a lot for me to handle. And the girls would always tell me how to handle it, how to get through it, how to like eat something or lay down for a minute, or we need to go get fresh air, or go put your face in the refrigerator for a minute, or put a cold rag on your neck, or like it was very much so conducive to teaching me how to become an addict or how to, handle things. And while I lived in that home, I was subjected to all kinds of pills. Um, and I believe a clear liquid that the mother put on my tongue a couple of times. I believe it was mescaline, or it could have been LSD. I don't have full recollection. I do know that at one point they gave me a tab of LSD. It was a full yellow sheet, and printed on the front of it in blue was Conan the Barbarian, which was very popular back in the 70s. And the brother pulled off 2 of these little squares and was going to put them on my tongue. And the girls said, no, only give her one. She's never done it before, or she's not used to it, something like that. So they put one on my tongue, and I tripped for about 12 hours. It was excruciating. It was the worst experience of my life. Like I said, I was only 9. They were all tripping as well, but they had done it before. And so they just thought it was funny. They tried to get me upstairs to lay down. I remember being really scared, and one of the girls called my mom, but then my mom was really confused. And when I tried to talk to her on the phone for a minute, I just told her, never mind, I love you, and I hung up the phone. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to get anyone in trouble. I didn't want to be a problem. I didn't want to make anyone upset with me. So I just followed along. Um, I don't remember why I stopped staying at that house, other than the fact that my father ended up passing away. And that was in March of 1978. I remember his daughter, my older step sister, coming to our front door, and my mother opening the door, and she said, Dad's dead. And I remember my mother collapsing into the wall, and my stepsister kind of grabbing her and walking her down the hallway and sitting her at the kitchen table. And I came up to my mother's side, and I was trying to get her to hold me or hug me or something. And she told me she couldn't do it. She couldn't handle it. And for me to go find my sister. And my sister was laying in her bed. And I went in, and she was sleeping, taking a nap. And I tried to wake her up, and she was always annoyed with me. And I was like, wake up, wake up. And she kind of rolled over and looked at me like, all annoyed. And I said, Dad's dead, Dad's dead. And she said, leave me alone. So I walked out the front door of the apartment, and I went and sat out in this little grassy area next to our apartment, still within the apartment complex. And I just talked to myself. And I kind of hid behind this giant electrical box because I didn't, if any kids were going to come out, I didn't want them to see me crying, or I didn't want to have to explain, or I just sat there for a while. And then I don't remember anything until the funeral. I remember going up to the casket. It was an open casket. I remember looking at my father and thinking that he looked very strange. Um, but he looked kind of like he was at peace. And I just remember thinking I wanted to crawl in that casket with him and never leave. And yeah, so that's the story of his passing, and the effect it had on me was severe, and the breakdown that it caused in our family at that point was severe because now it was just my mother and myself and my sister. My sister was already an angry teen, um, and she was already in having a boyfriend who was very violent and addicted to drugs as well. My mother didn't know how to handle things. And so I was on my own a lot, physically, mentally, emotionally. I was on my own a lot. And yeah, so that's it. I think I'm going to leave it there. And I love you guys. And thanks for coming and listening to my stories. They're not all like this. I'm just giving you a workup of how I have come to be who I am, and that the road of being a psychic is not the easiest at all. So, anyway, I love you guys, and I'll see you soon.